Yeah. So okay, so we talked about Wild Sun. Let's talk about where you've been so far with Wild Sun. Do you mind sharing kind of the timeline of how Wild Sun went? Like where was the beginning? And
All right, I'll tell you the story of. So Wild Sun started like this.
okay.
Champ Clark was in the Wednesday night acting class that I was in with Eddie Jemison, and the only reason I was there was because of Eddie. And there was a bunch of Chicago actors, and Champ was a person who acted a lot in Chicago and then moved out here and started working for People magazine and never got to act again. So Champ was in the class. We became close. After about 2 or 3 years, we exited the class. I had kind of had my fill of it, and Champ had his fill of it. Not everybody was getting along in that class anymore. Eddie was still there, but we wanted out and we got out. And then over time, we were doing things together. I can't remember what in particular, but he had that script that he had written as an idea of something. He didn't know what it was, but he had met Christian Brando through People magazine. Like, he did a story when Priscilla, not Priscilla. There's a woman named, and I don't know what her name is, Deborah Presley. Okay,
Okay.
she married Christian Brando, and Deborah Presley was first in the news because she claims to be the illegitimate child of Elvis Presley. Now, this has never been proven or anything, but she kind of seems to be someone that maybe wants to be in the limelight. And she met Christian Brando, and she married Christian Brando, and she called the offices of People magazine and said, "I just got married to Christian Brando, and you guys haven't even done a story on us." So they assigned it to Champ to call her and ask about this fact that they had gotten married. So Champ called, and he tells the story, but it's like he said they were in the car driving around, and he was talking to Deborah Presley, and he heard somebody wailing on I think on a harmonica in the background, and it was Christian. And he asked if he could talk to Christian. He spoke to him a little bit, and they kind of later on he asked him if he could like interview him, and he wasn't working for People magazine. He just was interested in meeting Christian and finding out more about him, because he always thought he was an interesting character that nobody really knew about. Over time, they developed a friendship, and over time, he asked him, if you want to, sit down and do some interviews so I can tell your story. And I think he says Christian was like, my story? You want to hear me?
Oh, wow.
He
Yeah.
was touched, he was kind of flabbergasted. And he said that would be like amazing, because nobody really wanted to know his story. So they did it. They got together over a series of weekends with Champ pressing record. And, the only thing he said was that, like, Christian would, have like a 6-pack of beer, and we just sit there and pull on the beers and talk. And he recorded it all, and then he condensed it and edited it down to what he thought was, the most important parts of the story. And it was just sitting there collecting dust because nothing had ever happened to it. And he asked me to come over to his apartment and read it. And I did. And when I read it, about 3 or 4 pages into it, I started feeling like this is so present tense the way he wrote it, that I feel like I'm becoming the guy just by saying the words. And after I finished it, he goes, I think we should read this in front of like an audience. And I was like, yeah. I said, there's something there. And he put together this reading with a bunch of actors and writers, and we did it at this coffee shop in Santa Monica. the Unurban Coffee House. And when I worked on it, I worked on it because I wanted to not like suck in front of all these people. But the more I worked on it, the more I thought, this is amazing. And when I read it in front of that audience, I knew, like, by 2 or 3 pages in, we're doing this, because they were just in the palm of my hands and I was just reading this story. And so immediately, I mean, the reaction was fantastic. And there were some heavy hitters in there. Beth Henley, who
Oh,
wrote Crimes of the Heart.
Crimes of the Heart. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Pulitzer Prize winning playwright Beth Henley was there, who Champ knew from Chicago and had worked with her as an actor. I think The Lucky Spot was a play they did. But she was there. And, she gave him a lot of really, supportive conversation about it, and ended up giving us a quote to use that we used heavily to get, people to come see the show. Robert Shapiro is his lawyer, and he came to opening night when we did it at the theater.
Okay.
But with Champ, like I had a conversation with him that day when we did the first reading in front of these people at this coffee shop. I said, we need to do this. And I spent the next 2 weeks memorizing it, because I knew if I memorized that story, I could tell it. And that was I've never memorized anything that long in my life. And it's a really hard thing to memorize, but I kind of figured it out, that he had done sort of a chronological story thing. So I could figure out how old Christian was. Anyway, I memorized it and I just started getting in front of people and telling the story. And every time I did that, it just got a little bit more, inside of me. And then we started like putting it up. We went to Unurban Coffee House and we invited people to buy tickets, and we did the show there 3 or 4 times. And then we put up a full run of it at the Santa Monica Playhouse. I've done it in New Orleans. I've done it in Baton Rouge about 3 or 4 times. I took it to LSU right after we started doing it at the coffee house. I did it at the Black Box at LSU for free in front of 150 friends. And it was phenomenal, to do it in that space. But yeah, then you saw it at Bistro Byron's, which I've done it there twice. Yeah, I did it in San Francisco right before pandemic. And then after pandemic, we did it at Fringe Festival in Edinburgh, Scotland. And it has a life because it's just such an amazing story. And I'll say this, yeah, I think I'm good in it. I do. But it doesn't matter if I'm good.
Right.
The story is so good that, like, I could literally just sit there and do nothing and just tell you the story, or I could kind of suck and tell you the story, and you're still going to be riveted because the story is that powerful.
Yeah.
And so for me as an actor, I'll never let go of it, because I don't think I'll ever be offered the chance to do something that rich. I mean, because it's an interesting guy's entire life told in an hour. And the day that somebody gets me to play something that's as powerful and as interesting and as all encompassing as that is the day I'll be like, really? There's no way. I mean, it's just this is sort of as big as it gets, and it's a curse and a blessing, because it kind of makes everything else pale in comparison a little. But it also gives me the idea that go, you know what? I still have gifts as an actor, and I have gifts as an artist. When I can get to do something like that at my age and go, yeah, I still love this.
Okay. Thank you so much. This was a really fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed it. Have a great day, okay? All right.
All right, lots of love. Tell your mom I said hi, and
Yeah. All right.
thank you. This was fun.
Yes, it was. Okay, bye.
All right, bye.